And welcome back to Berlin, Germany, home of the LEC. G2 Esports are down 2 games against the Mad Lions, and every single mistake that they have made, from drafting to gameplay, has been punished and exploited by Mad Lions. They've shown 2 different styles of draft. They've played differently. They've adapted from game 1 to game 2, and they are on fire.
Look, and there's so many questions I think I'm seeing about G2's drafting on social media right now. I want to go about that. And G2, the most critical thing for them, I feel, the Karma, it's fine. Keep the flex option, that's good. The mid-jungle 2v2 is critical to them taking over the map, and we can't see a Trundle again. That's an abomination. Let's get into game 3. All right, I was a little rushed there, so let's give me some time to explain as we get ready for this draft. I feel that G2's draft was fine for a long time. Like the bans, I don't think you have to change anything, but critically, following this Jinx ban, they banned both Volibear and Hecarim, 2 of the highest priority junglers on the patch, to which then Mad Lions take an Udyr on their first phase of picks. And then all of a sudden, G2 go Karma, which is okay. We're not going to hate on that pick just yet. I still don't like it in the hands of Rekkles, but if it's been working for G2, run with it. But then they pick a Gragas instead of a jungler. And then with 2 jungle bans in the second phase, removing the Lilia and the Olaf, there's nothing for Jankos to go back to other than, I mean, apart from the Trundle, like a Nidalee, perhaps a Graze, but those wouldn't fit into what G2 wanted to do. So now G2 completely thrown out the rule book. They're not banning any junglers. They are opening that up while completely shutting down the mid pool.
And do they adapt any more of their draft, or will we keep seeing this buff up caps approach? That's what we're going to find out. Seraphine, Tristana, and now Senna from the Mad Lions. So 2 of the same 3 bans from the previous games. Hecarim is open. Udyr is open. Lilia is open. And what will G2 decide to lock in? If this goes, and it is the Orianna, this will allow Elyoya the pick of the litter.
Yeah, and I feel like Elyoya would almost want to go for the Hecarim here. Hecarim plus Orianna, very powerful combination. Hecarim also the strongest jungler on the patch if you ask a lot of pro junglers. So that is my expectation for Elyoya. Now, stealing away the Orianna from Humanoid, he's always got a trick up his sleeve. And this game, it will be the Viktor. Viktor's been picking up a lot of steam, can comfortably lane to a lot of the meta matchups currently in the league, and also gives Mad Lions that scaling factor. You know, fighting into a Viktor, going in these run-at-you type of compositions can be very, very challenging, and that's the Hecarim like I was expecting. I like this already from Matt, yet Jankos fires back with the Volibear. So this is what we're talking about for G2, mid-jungle 2v2. The reason why they're not going for the Hecarim is because Volibear has stronger early game, skirmishing, ganks, all these things. A little bit weaker in the team fight compared to something like that Hecarim, but G2 know they need to strike early against Matt.
And that 2v2 was so good for G2 in game number 1. They were able to roam around a lot, get a gigantic advantage before the 2-minute mark. But what I appreciate and respect from Mad Lions is the adaptation in game number 2, with Elyoya being in the bottom lane at the exact same timing, reading the situation, adapting to what G2 did, and then ultimately setting up the series of plays that allowed Humanoid's Twisted Fate to take over the entire game. Kai'Sa will be the next lock-in for Rekkles. Thank you. I'm happy to see him on a champion that has a lot more agency, has a lot more impact. And I'm also wondering about this Orianna pick. It's something that a lot of the pro players we've had on the show have talked immensely about in terms of the meta, in terms of how many team fights we keep seeing. And arguably, if G2 don't fall behind, if G2 get themselves into a position where they can go toe-to-toe, this team composition is already starting to feel and look a little bit more traditional.
I think, yeah, you'd say traditional, but I'm almost a little bit worried because they're picking Kai'Sa into Viktor and Xayah on the other side, 2 champions that can play back very easily in fights, a lot of good range too to work with. So like Kai'Sa doesn't really want to be diving in fights, at least early on in this game, kind of like we were seeing with Carzzy going nuts in that game too, following off of a Twisted Fate. It feels like fights might be a little bit more slowed down, and now if G2 continue to pick dive threats next to it, likely seeing something like a Rel or an All-Star come through for Mikyx, well then, there's a lot of good response out of the Mad Lions. They can continue to play sort of disengaged zone control with Feathers and that gravity field.
Kaiser's champion pool is being hit there in phase 2. The Rakan and Alistair denied. Well, is still open and available if Kaiser wants to go for that one. In the previous games, this has been a Gnar blind pick, but drastically different team composition from G2. Does Armut fancy his chances once again? Where will this counter pick option come from? It will be once again, third game in a row, where phase 2 of picks instantly locked in.
All right. Expecting Rel or Leona now to come through from Mikyx. And then for top lane, Sylas is banned, so he doesn't have that. He doesn't have the Gragas, so it will just be a new matchup for Wunder, potentially a Sion, or maybe even if you wanted the hard engage, could go something like a Malphite. But when there's a Xayah on the other side, you don't really want to go for that champion either. It will be a Nautilus, a bit of an oldie but a goodie here for the Kai'Sa bot lane pairings. I think maybe wanting something that's a bit more jack of all trades if you are concerned about support matchup. Nautilus, hard to punish in that bottom lane.
And of course, the Rel, I was kind of leaning towards because of the idea of potentially having Kai'Sa jumping onto the backline. The power of engage from that one would work out. It is now going to be an Akali lock-in that we expect in the top lane for Wunder, with Caps piloting Orianna. That will be one of the champions that can threaten Viktor and Xayah if he's able to get to that backline.
Honestly, Mad Lions, you could go for a Braum, something that plays back in fights well here. You just need reliable CC versus this Akali coming through. G2 with yet another curveball at the end of draft. Leona will be that reliable CC source that Mad Lions were looking for. This Akali does change things up for G2. It indicates they want to play a much stronger top side of the map. They've got dive threats with the Kai'Sa and the Akali going into the backline, but I remain concerned that there's a ton of CC in the Mad Lions. They have really good self-peel on their backline to a lot of damage to great zone control. I feel like 3 games in a row, Mad Lions have gotten pretty much everything they could want inside the draft.
And they've executed it in 2 of them. They've been able to pull off fantastic team fights. Yesterday, a fantastic early game rather. And now it's on to G2. Are they about to get swept 0-3 against the Mad Lions? The draft looks a little better in my eyes. Now I need to see them execute this one and hopefully give us just a few more games. All of the pressure is on G2 Esports. All of the expectations was on G2. And now their backs are against the wall.
Look, I heard Jankos, he was a little bit loud on the stage. He says, we are either going 0-3 or it's a reverse sweep. So G2's cards are all on the table. They are going in. They're putting Wunder onto a carry. He's been getting bullied all day long. It's time for Wunder to shine on the top side of the map. Do G2 have what it takes to fire back against the Mad Lions and make the reverse sweep a reality? Let's find out in Game 3.
As we hit the rift, I'm going to briefly try to answer that question you just posed. Does G2 have what it takes? Historically, I've never really doubted them. Historically, even when behind in games or series, there's just this unnerving feeling that G2 can and will, most times, bounce back. And in Europe, only Fnatic have defeated them twice in a BO5, Misfits once, Mad Lions once. And today, it feels a little different. Today in this series, it feels as though Mad Lions are just playing better. They are better prepared. Their picks and bans are working out. And it's Mad Lions that I'm looking at. So ask the question, can they close this series 3-0?
I mean, with the way they were playing, especially in that game too, I mean, just fluid map movements all around. Ever since they turned around game 1, they've just been in the driver's seat, and I just loved the way not just Elyoya was able to impact the early game, but Kaiser just lived in mid lane, working with his jungler to shut down Caps and really not allow him much room to breathe. You can see that G2 already have some ideas of their own. Level 1 with a Nautilus, a Kai'Sa, a Volibear, these champions, monsters. Right off the start of the game, so it will be a little bit of a blue buff invade, unspotted by Mad Lions as well. So I really like this, trying to split the bot side of the map from level 1, waste Elyoya's time, because Elyoya has no idea that this invade is going to be happening, and as long as G2 can sell that they weren't leashing the blue buff, because like Rekkles doesn't have mana, right? If they walk in from the right angle, you can see they reposition towards the left side of the river. It looks like it's normal start here for G2.
Now, what does Elyoya do to respond? In game number 1, he conceded first blood after a good play from G2, and then he found very effective ways to impact the game and come back, as Jankos is stealing even more camps.
Yeah, exactly. This is great, because you look at Volibear, and he's traditionally got a slower early clear than the Hecarim, and so making these invade plays is really great to sort of shut down the tempo of the enemy jungler, and especially because he got a leash from a Kai'Sa too, very strong leashing champion. He's actually ahead in terms of the early clear, and still no idea that Elyoya has absolutely no idea that this is happening. Level 2 even achieved first for G2 on the bot side, so a very good opening to game 3 for them.
I mean, that's fantastic, considering how they were able to help out Jankos, then get to lane, get level 2 and put a little bit of chunk damage. Elyoya, however, will make his way top. Wunder's a little
Oh,
bit
it's
low.
a flash in. I love it.
There's no flash for Wunder. He's going to ignite. TP will put down the smoke screen, get rampaged.
Oh, you can't see him.
Wunder's running for his life. Ignite is available to him. He sidesteps the boulder, and Elyoya gets first blood.
Oh man, Elyoya with the gank in the top lane. Doesn't even care about the vision. No flash on Wunder, like we mentioned. It is a very common thing, and Elyoya was considering sticking around for a little bit of extra time. Now even Kaiser's going to walk into the jungle. Notice that Grump is gone. So Elyoya probably thinks that Jankos is in his jungle now, started on his red side, but that is certainly not the case. Jankos is here to fight for Crab or fight top lane potentially. You saw him considering going towards that lane. No flash on Armut now after committing for that kill. So good counterattack by Mad, and can Elyoya even get the Crab? He does have Smite. Will he be there in time?
Kaiser's making his way up. I think the Smite went down, and all of a sudden, that's the knockback from the charge. Rekkles has got flash available. Will need to use that to get over the wall. Mikyx and Rekkles do so together. Humanoid will be able to get the Siphon, steps forward, looking for the laser. The
Oh, it's so close!
And Mikyx escapes with his life.
Oh man, Mikyx surviving there, critical. Still every single summoner blown by the G2 bot lane to try and cheat and steal away that Scuttle Crab, shut down Elyoya. But Elyoya gets it, so it's first blood, it's the Crab. Yes, he's behind in camps, but all of his camps are going to be respawning. It is not the end of the world for this jungler. Honestly, this early game's been crazy because it's just been mind games back and forth. First G2, I love the invade to start things off, but then Wunder is pushing top lane, flashless on the Akali. Every top laner expects that Hecarim to run bot side, but he should have been ready because Jankos was bot side. There wasn't any sort of counterplay in the top lane. It's a very good early gank by Elyoya once again, even while being shut down.
And on the inverse, it's very easy to see how G2 wanted to approach the first few minutes of this gameplay. Get into Elyoya's face, disrupt his gameplay. Remember, first pick was that Orianna, so you safely assume that Mad Lions and Elyoya will pick up the Hecarim, thereby unlocking this ability, this strategy to play out. It has not hugely paid off. It's still a 500 gold lead for Mad Lions. First blood did go to Elyoya, but I like how Rekkles and Mikyx were also getting involved. Push that wave out, move into the river, and try to challenge, and again, get into Elyoya's face as Kai'Sa, level 3 is stepping
He lives mid lane, Trevor. He lives here, doesn't even charge the Zenith Blade. Just making sure Humanoid can push out this wave. And it's important to keep in mind, like, looking at these two compositions, I feel like Mad Lions scaling their team fight is absolutely monstrous, and they have a lot of really good answers into the dive threats of, you know, an Akali or a Volibear later into the game with the self-peel of Carzzy's ultimate. The zone control they can achieve as well within fights. It's all very, very strong. So G2, what they're looking for with a Volibear in the jungle, with Ignite Akali on the top side, you know, this power bot lane, Kai'Sa, Nautilus, very easy to force fights, is they want early action, but they don't want to be beaten. They have the numbers advantage, and Mad Lions are in bot lane.
Well, Dredgeline will get Mikyx to safety despite the Zenith Blade connecting, but you just felt like that was another kill on the cards. Mad Lions used that blast cone well, and Jankos is now making
Jankos, you just walked over a ward, but he's still looking for the dive here.
He's got the flash available, hops over, goes under the tower, tanks up the turret, couple more autos from Caps, picks up the kill, and Jankos gets out.
Wow, that was beautifully played too. Jankos trusting Caps to get the kill, didn't even offer an extra auto attack, needed to make sure he got out from underneath the tower. If he stays for another auto, that's another turret shot. That's Elyoya with a ghost killing that Volibear and firing back. So a really nice gank by Jankos on the mid lane, completely forgetting about the ward. He does not care. He might not have even noticed that ward if he's not clearing it right now. And that will be the Scuttle Crab for him. So again, Jankos wants to play actively around his lanes, especially now that level 6 has come through from the solo lanes. When he gets his level 6 too, his dueling is almost unmatched. You can see the charge on in here. Again, Jankos flashing over the wall, lands the CC, drops an E, and runs away. Again, If he had stayed for another auto, that would have been his life.
So very, very nicely done by G2 to get their first kill of the game, even out that gold. And now that Wunder, he insta-teleported back despite going down earlier. He's still on even CS with Armut. And this Akali is going to be very important for me to watch. Armut's laning phase and his Gnar has been so influential in helping Mad Lions pick up the wins that they already have. And the pivot in the draft from G2 means that they've run themselves an Akali top. And now, again, a heavy, heavy focus on getting inside the jungle of Mad, getting into the pathing of the decision-making of Elyoya, but this blue buff steal was interrupted.
Yeah, Jankos just one camp away from hitting level 6, and once that happens, he's gonna want to get involved. Elyoya, the same thing. You know, both these junglers have so much power. Of course, the difference being Elyoya, really good setup with that ultimate, finding ganks and whatnot, but if you compare the two junglers showing up in the same lane, that Volibear ultimate, the stats buffs you get off of it, very, very powerful whenever those two junglers arrive in the same area. Also, you have to keep in mind the ability to turn off turrets. And we already saw him dive around mid. He might just look for round 2 of that. With Caps having his ultimate, Humanoid's flash should be up in just a moment. And once that flash is back, it becomes very challenging to actually finish off that Viktor.
Stormbringer is available for Jankos if he wants to bring it down. He's managing to look Elyoya in the eyes. And the first person to move from mid looked to be Caps. He's pushed that wave forward. By the way, quietly amassing a 15-16 CS advantage. Caps in their middle lane. Humanoid, when he was killed, it was 1.5 waves or so of minions.
Oh, look at this. Elyoya seen on this ward in the bot side. Doesn't know that's happening. Jankos says, forget the blue buff invade. We want to fight, 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 fight. Jankos wants this 3v3. He's so strong.
There's the engage. The Shield of Daybreak locks up Carzzy for a moment or two. Summon a heal and flash use Jankos. Rekkles chases with the ultimate. Killer Instinct is used and so is the Stormbringer. First kill is secured by Mad Lions. The shockwave comes down and Kaiser will be the next to follow. 2 quick kills to G2.
Yeah, really good fight there. Again, using the vision, using the knowledge, and using this level 6 to fight Caps with mid lane priority as well, unlocks G2 to push and roam around the map. When G2 are winning their early games, it is Jankos and Caps getting the heck out of that mid lane and finding plays. And now Jankos seeing if there may be a bit of an overstep, trying to snipe with an E perhaps, but the timing is not good enough. Close, but not in the end.
And of course, during draft, you were talking about the mid jungle impact on the 2 previous games. This time round, there's a lot more support.
Thanks, observers. I really appreciate that. We saw him on that ward, and you can see from the start, you know, Mad Lions do fire back. They're able to trade that 1 kill onto Mikyx, I do believe, but ultimately, it's just a little bit too much firepower here for G2. No top laners could get involved. Neither of them had TP, so the ultimate is useful there to finish off a flashless Kaiser.
Plus 500 gold to G2. They've got themselves the Ocean Drake under their belt as well. CS advantages in mid as well as bot. And this is looking a lot better to start the game.
Yeah, and while mid jungle has been the power point for G2, I would say mid jungle support was the power point for Mad Lions in game 2. Kaiser has completely showed up in this series. It is looking like a big support diff out on the Rift today, and his influence around mid has shut down Caps' ability to roam around the map. Caps is, I mean, the last 2 games has only really been going towards that top lane, so I think it's a smart decision for G2 to say, forget that top lane for a second. Let's try to lock Kaiser into this lane if we can get Rekkles and Mikyx ahead.
And look at the minimap. Again, Carzzy, Kaiser making their way back to the middle lane. Flash is available for Caps, and Kaiser will show he's got access to that solar flare at the same time. And good trade here onto Wunder. There's a little bit of damage bouncing back from that Twilight Shroud, and the rest of Mad Lions don't go further. Just very briefly highlight Caps for a moment. He's got himself 6 titles, one of the most decorated players here in EU. The 2 previous games, the comps were built around him, like 100%. And this time around, on the Orianna, can still make those huge game-changing shockwaves, but a lot more utility, supporting the Akali, supporting the Kai'Sa, and G2 need that to happen to force a game 4.
Yeah, still Caps' roam's hugely influential. We're going bot lane.
Right, instant teleport into the bot lane tower. The Featherstorm comes up from Carzzy. No flash available. Killer Instinct comes up from Rekkles, and that will pick up the kill. It is at the cost of Mikyx.
Caps is here.
Here comes Caps. Flash away from Kaiser as he's trying to get back to the tower. The Onslaught of Shadows comes in. Rekkles flashes away for his life. Shockwave still available. Pulls back Elyoya. He continues to chase down Rekkles. 1 or 2 more to That's Rekkles down. Caps gets another reply, and in. Jankos flashes for the bite. And at the end of the day, it's G2 find 4.
Chomp, chomp. Jankos gets the kill. It was so close. Both junglers trying to finish off the enemy carry there. And it's G2 out on top once again. The roam from Caps coming in clutch, working with Jankos again to attack this bot lane. G2 are going to run this play back over and over again. This time, it's even while Mad Lions are trying to return to lane. So not only do they get these kills, all these minions lost to the turret. 2 turret plates picked up as well. And it turns into a 3v3 here after support is lost and AD carry is lost for Mad Lions. So Rekkles, his flash here, the time he's able to survive as well with the shield from Caps helping out too. Makes it easy to finish off Elyoya and very nearly gets Rekkles out with his life. And Humanoid did not expect that at all. Turns his back and, well, it's a flash chomp, a flash bite for the kill.
Yeah, gets mauled to death. 2-0-4 for both Jankos and Caps. 3-1-3 for Rekkles. And the engage is going to catch out Jankos for now. 2 members of Mad Lions running him down. The sky will be split for a brief moment. And Elyoya and Kai'Sa, they pushed him away and they're going to have an uncontested time on the tower.
Yeah, the junglers and the support for Mad Lions just working so well together. That'll be a big charge forward here. And Carzzy should collect on some of these turret plates as well with the push in. We'll get 160 off that from autoing the turret previously. There is an Infernal spawning onto the Rift. I have to look at top laners because they both got TP. Slight level advantage for Armut there if he wants to get involved, but there's no flash, no ultimate on Carzzy. That man under a lot of stress if G2 decide to fight this. 2,000
gold lead you can see on your screens right now, plus 1,800 between Rekkles and Carzzy. Plus 7,800 between Caps and Humanoid. G2 will start off the Dragon. Mad Lions have already backed away. I feel that they are conceding this one. Will not be able to contest, not be able to get there in time. And that gold difference is once again in the favor of G2 Esports. In game number 1, it was an over-aggressive fight around Baron that ended up giving Mad Lions the gold and the time that they needed to then force more team fights. So for G2, we're looking for a more controlled mid to late game. We're looking to not see the same number of positional errors that Mad Lions have punished and used to pick up their wins.
Exactly, because much like game 1, this is a draft where Mad Lions have a lot of great scaling elements, so you cannot make those same critical errors if you are G2. Now Jankos making his way towards topside, feeling really confident on this Volibear. Has the ability to shut off the turrets and has the ability to get kills.
Well, going to chase right in. Not going to use the ultimate just yet. Wunder. Level 10 looking at the minimap. The rest of Mad Lions putting some resources down bottom. It looks like Humanoid has just left the lane. Elyoya is making his way through as well. Ultimate available if Mikyx sticks around, but this time he backs out quickly enough.
This is the problem with showing top, though. You've invested so much into Rekkles early on in the game that tower very low. Rekkles is going to have to back away. I like the decision to end up farming the Krugs there. Of course, even with that super fed Kai'Sa, 4 is greater than 2, Trevor, and that will be the turret there for Carzzy and some much needed gold.
So that means Mad Lions will get the first tower of the game. Rekkles, all those investments have paid off. He's got himself a significant advantage, plus 40 CS Kraken Slayer and the makings of that PD already, plus the Berserker's Greaves already, in contrast to Carzzy. But let's be fair, Carzzy and Kai'Sa have been the focus of a lot of attention from G2. That's what's allowed them to pick up this gold lead. And man, they may fancy themselves a little bit of a shot. Sticking around, too much vision, G2 not going to be in trouble right now.
No, they're not. Okay, what are we looking at next? Because G2 were able to get the first 2 Drakes of the game, which is really good news for them. Again, trying to speed things up, play around these mid-game spikes on their champions. Rekkles went for the Kraken Slayer. Of course, trying to remove the frontliners from this equation, because the way G2 have to fight is a little bit different. They can't really just throw all this dive back onto Carzzy or Humanoid. Carzzy not even strong enough to really warrant that type of playstyle within the fights at the moment. So it's more about buying space for Caps and Rekkles, and then having the looming threat of Wunder coming in on the side, coming in at the back of the fight. Again, a similar look in a way to that Game 1 draft where Wunder had to get onto a Carzzy or a Humanoid for G2 to win the 5v5s.
A little bit more mobility in the Akali.
And spread out power,
yes.
I would say, too. It's a big difference this game, having Rekkles on the Kai'Sa as opposed to the Karma, having Caps take a little bit more back seat. Of course, his shockwave going to be critical in these later fights.
I also think the focus on Dragons, and much earlier, is also another change from the 2 previous games. G2 already picking up 2 by 15 minutes. The third will spawn at 17. The 2 previous games, both teams really just conceded dragons for one another. As the solar flare comes down, Zenith Blade will connect. Onslaught is available for Elyoya, and Wunder will just get rampaged to death. Is it at Humanoid's life, though? The splitter comes down, and so much damage. It's Jankos that gets the killing blow, and they may end up trading towers.
Yeah, it's a good counterattack in mid lane, especially to try and open up the map here for G2. Still, Wunder does fall topside. Now 0-2 on the Akali. He's got his Rift Makers, that's all right, but this is an investment in draft that G2 need to pay off. They could have gone for something like a Scion, just played that beefy frontline boy that they did last week and not been as unhappy with him falling behind. But now Mad Lions have attacked that lane a couple of times in a row. G2 need to validate that, validate the lack of pressure they put towards the top side themselves by continuing to accelerate around Caps and Rekkles.
The thing that I love about those top lane, mid lane plays, or Dragon or bot, both teams are really taking advantage of where their opponents are. We've seen so many objectives and kills traded throughout the course of the 3 games, and this Rift Herald looks like it should be secured. Mikyx and Jankos arrive a little late to the party, and there's enough Mad Lions players to dissuade anything right now. Wunder can pass going over. The Dredge line did not find its target. Perfect execution. Not just yet. Wunder holds onto the all-in. And you can see Humanoid had moved. He'd already left mid lane, was coming to back up any potential fight.
I mean, G2 are really just trying to see if they could get Elyoya to burn his ultimate or something. I feel like his ultimate isn't even up. Maybe they knew that timer and were trying to punish. Regardless, you notice Rekkles and Caps very strong compared to the rest of the competition. Gold very evenly spread among the rest of the Mad Lions players. So in fights, if they're able to single out a Rekkles or a Caps, then it does look good. You'd have to imagine based on gold, but I don't think Mad Lions are going to be looking for those fights in the very near future. Now, with a Cloud Drake coming up in 20 seconds and G2 threatening to be on soul point after just taking that, maybe Mad Lions reconsider, but I don't feel like if you look at it in context of like Kai'Sa having 2 items, now just the raw power of G2's champions at this point in the game, I think the right call for Mad Lions is to back up and keep giving time for Carzzy to farm up.
Also, Gnar just timed out for Armut, so he's going to be a little bit tired. The rest of Mad Lions realize this is not the game-changing dragon. They can buy themselves a few more minutes of gameplay, and this will give us the 23-minute soul. 1.5 minutes until Baron is up. G2 playing this one a little bit more tempered, a little bit more controlled. Shockwave used. Killer Instinct is available, not yet fired from Rekkles, but a good chunk of damage. And obviously with no major objectives to play for, it's just going to force Kai'Sa back, dissuade any further pressure that Mad Lions.
And don't get too excited about the killer instincts in this game. I don't think Rekkles is usually going to be using those at the start of the fight. Again, it'll be the cleanup ultimate where you've seen, you know, a fight goes on for 30 seconds or something. There's low HP bars, then Rekkles lands a W, then he goes flying in. That's more of the style G2 have to play in this game, or wait until they get a Humanoid low in the backside and both Wunder and Rekkles can time and coordinate their engage at the same time. You'll notice on your minimap right now, a lot of pressure from G2 towards the top side, playing around Caps. We're considering knocking down that turret, but instead actually deciding to recall as a squad. They want to get back and defend their mid tower.
Yeah, let's see if they can make it in time. Mad Lions definitely grouped up nice and early, and of course tomorrow, reminder, Rogue will take on Schalke. The loser of today's series will play the winner of tomorrow's series next Saturday. Now, LEC semi-final. Mad Lions will be able to make it to the tower, summon the Herald, and should be able to get the boop off. Now, can G2 and do they want to start a fight? The answer is a maybe right now. The tower does not yet drop. Dredge line, again, just short on the Mad Lions. Mikyx cannot yet find that game-changing hook.
Yeah, and you might ask, like, why do G2 like all reset there instead of just trading the towers very easily? I think the simple explanation is outer turrets give you pretty much no gold after turret plating has fallen. A lot of their gold is loaded into the plates, and after 14 minutes, you get nothing there. And again, G2 want fights right now. They desperately are looking for fights. You know, around the level 11 to 13 mark. 2 items here, very powerful for G2. So Mad Lions did a good job of disengaging there, getting the turret very low with the Herald, but ultimately not over-committing and letting themselves take that 5v5.
And also that mid-outer turret is so much more important than the top one. Look at all of the vision inside Mad Lions jungle, which is easier to set up and place a challenge for because Mad Lions don't have a mid-outer turret. The moment that tower drops, it opens up just a lot more possibilities and options for the team to play around. So we had a few minutes of slightly slower play. The advantages that Caps and Rekkles continue to build up are still there. Plus 30 CS in the mid lane, plus 60 in the bottom lane. The converse, though, is that Armut is still a threat. He still has such game-changing abilities in that Gnar. And when these team fights play out, Ender, you said something during draft, they'll be slightly slower, there'll be a little bit more influence on can G2 get to the backline. But unlike the previous games, they've also got much more damage to deal with Mad Lion's front line.
Yeah, I think the big concern about G2 is their relatively low range when you look at their actual sources of damage, whether it's, Akali, yeah, she can fly a far distance, but once she's actually hitting you, once she's dealing damage, she's in your face. Very similar for Rekkles on this Kai'Sa as well. And there's a lot of great zone control, a lot of fantastic CC options. That's been a staple of these Mad Lions draft, is tons and tons of CC. Game 1, they had a ton of these diving CC threats. Game 2 was a lot of individual jump on you from a mile away and then lock you down. And this game, again, tons of AoEs, ways to buy space with the feathers, with the gravity field as well. And then obviously Leona, Hecarim, Gnar, what's not to love about those 3 champions in a team fight? So actually navigating the 5v5 in these later game situations is going to be so much more challenging for G2, and Mad Lions have done a great job of not offering those fights, have not offered those side lane picks to G2 that they've been looking for.
Right now, Mad Lions set their sights on the mid tower with a minute until Dragon. They are able to secure their 3rd tower of the game and starting to try to push some of that vision line forward.
Yeah, I'd also say a really good itemization coming through from Humanoid. He went for a very early Verdant Barrier, great into the matchup versus the Orianna, but you also have to consider, tons of AP damage from the Akali in the top side. Volibear, building full tank, not much of a physical damage threat either. So Humanoid, even though he doesn't have an ultimate that can make him invulnerable, he does have the magic resistance now to try and survive that initial burst, survive any sort of dive that G2 are going to be throwing their way.
One important thing just ahead of this next Dragon potential fight, Lord Dominic's completed to add to the Kraken Slayer and the Phantom Dancer from Rekkles. That is an entire item up right now over Carzzy. I'm looking at Mad Lions. Do they even try? I mean, surely they don't give up the soul for free. There's 25 seconds away. G2 again, push the mid wave, put some vision inside Mad Lion's jungle, and then start to fall back. I wonder if Mad...
Whoa!
Betten the Baron. That was an aggressive killer instinct. Pushes Armut away, and that reduces his ability to impact the next fight.
Yeah, no flash on that, and I think Mad Lions may end up giving up this Drake. It is the Cloud Soul. A lot of pro players maybe don't value that as highly as other options here, but now looking at some sort of a fight, it's just a killer instinct you took off of G2. They have full control. You have to give this one up. G2, with the early focus on Dragons, have done a great job of speeding this game up. We're now 6 minutes away from an Elder. At 30 minutes, Mad Lions will have to choose to fight over that, and maybe at that point they should have 3 items on Carzzy, working towards a 4th too, so they will be better off. And even though they're only down 800 gold at this point in the game, you have to look compositionally, you have to look at where the gold actually is, and the carries from G2 are just too damn strong right now for Mad.
And also the feeling you get from how G2 have played out the course of this game, they've not given any opportunities to the Mad Lions. Almost every single sort of gank or skirmish attempt has paid dividends, and that's why they've been able to build up this amount of map control. I also think Rekkles using
it's a Hex Flash play
aggressively was because of all the vision that they've set up. Kai'Sa will just about go down before he can even cast the ultimate. The feathers come backwards, and while Wunder takes a lot of damage, he's zoned away multiple threats from the Mad Lions. Mikyx holds Humanoid in place for a brief moment or two. Armut has got the Mega Gnar on the way. No flash available to chase, and G2
they won it!
Flash forward from Humanoid.
He's a fast force!
The Onslaught of Shadows comes up, and Elyoya just gets melted where he stands. Mad Lions continue the chase. Mega Gnar goes backwards, but does not stun or catch anyone. Caps takes some damage from it, but he was not impacted. Killer Instinct forward, cleanup crew activated, and G2 cannot get more. 3 kills.
Mad Lions tried so hard to make that fight work, but it was after they lost Kaiser. Elyoya is so far away from the rest of his team, the backline could not deal damage. Complete overforce from the Mad Lions, and G2 caught it and punched them down. Now G2 are on the 25-minute Baron.
All right, Humanoid's trying to get some spells over the wall. 3,000 hit points on Baron. There's no one near enough. Shockwave will catch out Kaiser, and do G2 fancy a little bit more? Wunder steps forward, chucks a couple of shurikens in, but Baron, a significant gold lead. The Cloud Soul and G2 are back on the rift.
Like, Mad Lions weren't doing great before this fight happened, but they were not giving G2 that big of a lead, even with the Cloud Soul coming over. But like, this TP a little bit suspect from Armut. He does get over the wall, but they've already lost their support. And then the decision is they think they can kill Rekkles, right? That's what the charge forward is. That's what it's all about, with Elyoya going flying onto this Kai'Sa, but she has flash to get to the rest of her team, and you hit a 4-man ult, but who's hitting? Humanoid can't really, he didn't have the spells. Carzzy's way too far away on the Xayah that cannot hit you from a mile away. I mean, you have to fight around your backliner. The whole point of the Mad Lions composition is you want to invite G2 into, you want to fight around Humanoid and Carzzy and then turn it around when the enemy team gets low. That was just way too deep without enough gold.
And it all started with the Hex Flash over the wall. Mikyx able to set that one up onto Kai'Sa, chased down by the rest of G2.
Come back here.
Edgeline catches onto Armut, Shockwave pulls him backwards, the tower falls as well as he mega gnaws out. The tower will just be the victim of this skirmish, but that is all happening while Carzzy is pushing the top lane.
Yeah, Carzzy's just solo pushing top lane. Again, Mad Lions can't really fight over these inner turrets, so it's a good idea to send a carry to a side lane and pick up some waves while G2 play 2 lanes. But now, everything changes. Double cannon minions in both lanes here. Those are just going to barrage down these turrets. Mid lane, you can't do anything about it. You have to have the Viktor to actually clear those away, so they do hold on to their bot lane inhib turret. But mid is now completely exposed.
So difficult to deal with those Baron-empowered minions, and every single time Mad Lions step forward, you're looking for a Mikyx hook. Looking to see, does Jankos want to jump in? The Solar Flare is not even available as well, so if G2 continue to pressure, one of the big initiation tools not there. 5,000 gold lead now. Super minions not yet unlocked. It's just that mid inhibitor turret. And Ender, at 27 minutes in the game, we're 2 minutes away from Elder. The Dragon control, the early game decision-making from G2 has just strangled any opportunities Mad Lions have had. And also, in contrast to the previous games, much cleaner, much less errors, whether forced or unforced from G2, and that's what's allowing them to control the game. Even though the goal difference was so small, nearly insignificant, it felt a lot more.
Look, compositionally, they have a lot more options, and I also feel like the early game decision to focus around bot lane with Rekkles on this Kai'Sa has been so crucial in changing the pace of things for G2. Now they finally claim that top lane outer turret, and G2, Jankos positioned on a flank. Only 3 members of the Mad Lions here. Elyoya being called over, Armut being called back to the base.
The hook.
Another
for the
turret
hook.
falls.
Mikyx flashes for it, and that's the Gale Force from Carzzy. It will at least allow a safe secure of the tower, but now Mikyx will need to wait for that Hex Flash to be available, and Baron will start to time out relatively soon. 7 towers secured for G2. And they're just going to look for this final big objective. You have to feel with a minute until Elder, that's where they're going to set their sights.
Carzzy will have 3 items. I mean, he's already got 3 items for that. Humanoid, to check how much he's sitting on, 1,700, so may be able to work into Void Staff, something like this. Not a ton of MR built up by the backline of G2, but in terms of cutting out the front line, the Void Staff will be the item of choice here for Humanoid. Finishes that off, and again, 40 seconds away, every summoner up for G2, apart from the flash on Mikyx. Jankos will be back in time for that fight, and Carzzy, crucially, does not have his just yet, but again, should be coming up right around the time that the Dragon spawns.
Can Mad Lions find a pick? Can Mad Lions find a kill early on during the course of a fight to change the course of it? They've pushed out mid lane, start the teleport down, double TP towards Wunder. He starts to channel.
It's a triple TP!
And it looks like he'll be able to get out. The gravity field will not be able to lock him down. So both mad teleports used for this Elder fight.
Ultimately, the teleports do not matter. It's a 5v5. Everyone wants all their players here. The time this Baron or this Dragon spawns, and it's a Rabadon's finished off by Caps. He's going to be so huge in this fight. Watch for the Shockwave. It may very well destroy the Mad Lions.
Level 16 for Rekkles as well. Keeping an eye on the ball. Elder's starting to drop. It's Mad Lions who have to deal with that threat as well as G2. The engage onto Armut. He can get Megan off fairly soon. Elder will reset.
Oh, he's low.
Over. Armut flashes to safety. He's going to Gnar out and has the ability to do something, but he doesn't have the ability to check.
Shockwave!
Shockwave catches 2. Kaiser as well as Armut. That's the first one down. G2 now regain control of the pit, and Carzzy is just blown up. Wunder finds him where he stands, chases for another onto Kaiser, gets himself the triple, and now the Elder is left unopposed. The dredge line will hold Elyoya in place. This will be the ace and the 5th Dragon setup for G2.
And forget the Dragon, Mr. Caps is running to mid lane for G2. G2 do not want to give Mad Lions any more time to come back into the game. It's still 20 seconds away from Carzzy, 10 for Kaiser, and Caps may very well be able to finish this one off. He chunks this tower with that Orianna, and there's no one left to defend.
Ender, you said during draft it's about mid and jungle. Jankos goes 4-0-10, Caps goes 4-0-11. All of the time invested in the bottom lane allows G2 to set up on the Nexus. Caps remains unopposed. The rest of the Mad Lions are going to be able to defend for now. Caps continues to fight back and manages to get himself another kill onto Armut. Our production team was expecting the win, but the fight will play out. Carzzy will be yet another to fall at the hands of G2 Esports. A couple lost kills.
Oh, it's a triple.
They finish the game. G2 win their first of the series.
Now we got there in the end. I thought for a second in typical G2 fashion we'd see them look for the pentakill for Rekkles, but that was a much better game from G2. They forgot about the karma, they put Rekkles on a carry, they got back to the mid-jungle that worked for them. The roams to the bot lane from beginning to end, a much better G2.
Remind me what you heard Jankos yelling before the draft began.
It's either 0-3 and we go home, try again next week, or it's the reverse sweep. That's exactly what he said.
The first step towards a reverse sweep is winning that game 3. G2 have done it. They were able to control and anticipate anything Mad Lions was going to throw at them. It started very early on. A focus on Elyoya, a focus in every single jungle invade, challenge on the scuttles, but G2 pulled it off.
Now the thing is, Trevor, because G2 lost their first 2 games, if we continue to go to a game 5, these things, it's always going to be side selection for Mad Lions. So they can take blue side if they want. If they think that they can throw G2 off their rhythm, might be a good idea for them.
I wonder if they're going to. Obviously, Mad Lions will get a little bit of time before they have to lock in their side selection. They got absolutely controlled that game, and G2 seemed to be awake. Will it continue? G2 Esports answered back with that very convincing win. After the break, we'll talk about what changed from the 2 previous games.
Well, G2 won, first of all. That did happen.
Still no friends, huh?
Why can't you do something normal?
How did you get past the loading screen? You beat her!
You haven't got what it takes.
Come on!
Systems are overloading. We can't risk another game.
We need to take a break and regroup.
We're starting to lose our mind. Captain, we cannot go back to Elo hell. Last time it took us months to get out of it.
Initiate break protocol.
Hurry up!
Yes! Yes! I did it! We did it! We did it!
Even the biggest champ needs a break.
ADC Studio, everyone. The reigning champions changed their game plan for Game 3 and managed to stay alive in tonight's series. Whew, G2 has arrived. I was afraid we're going to have another 3-0 on our hands, but luckily it's not the case.
Yeah, it's almost as if their first two drafts that they ran, it's something they're working in scrims for them with the karma and stuff like this, but now they're running it back, something that we've seen throughout the whole split, right? Proactive jungler, aggressive bot lane, and it's almost similar to Fnatic yesterday's series, right? They were playing the TF, something that they worked on in scrims. They finally do something in Game 3, which they want to do what they've been doing in the regular season, but it didn't work out for them because obviously the dive. But looking at this draft, I feel like the first pick Orianna, ban away the Jinx, ban away the TF, and get the jungle OP trade-off of Hecarim Volibear.
Was that the most important thing for you as well, Zanzarah, that jungle trade-off?
Yeah, of course. It's finally it happens. So people just trade to go to their junglers, and there is no Lee Sin, no Olaf, so everyone is good. And as I said, Jankos helps Caps, and S2 they won the game. They just free up bot lane feel comfortable, and comfortable win for G2.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing about this draft is it's just not Caps against the world anymore, right? You have an aggressive support from Mikyx, and the fact that he has a Kai'Sa means he can roam with the Kaiser rather than just leaving the Karma bot. They can make plays together. Then you've got the Volibear diving in. The Akali pick for me was slightly questionable because you have a lot of magic damage already. And then into the Gnar, it's not like it's a winning lane. He got abused a little bit in the early game.
Yeah.
And Wunder never really showed up in the game until the Elder Dragon, where he got a triple kill and he was scaling.
And then it was all good for the Akali. As Zanzarah, I'd love to know, what do you think is behind this from G2? The fact that they get stuck on the side in that first series, which they end up pulling out then now in the first two games, they go for that singular threat comp. Does it seem like they're trying things out? Because if it does work, then that's great. Or how do you see the decision-making process that G2 has been through so far in this best of 5?
I'm not sure. Actually, it's hard to say because it's like G2. It's maybe it's working on screens, but I don't know. Sometimes I feel like they just want to play something what they didn't even play in scrims, and they just pick it, you know. But I think after first two games, this is actually the right way to go. They changed the draft in a proper way, and I think if they gonna keep guessing these champs like Volibear, I think they can actually maybe win.
Yeah, definitely, especially with Jankos on the Volibear. He looked so much more comfortable, so much more proactive than on the Trundle and stuff like this. And that's the biggest thing. They made sure they got the jungle trade-off, and they picked Orianna away from Mad Lions. They denied the TF. It was all good and dandy. They covered all their bases. Now, I think if Mad Lions choose blue side and they do something similar where they ban out junglers and first pick a jungler, can G2 adapt on the red side to still get the same kind of composition that works for them?
Mad Lions did pick blue, so we can talk about that later. First off, I do want to talk about some of the dives we saw in the early game, and G2 really having agency in the early game. And as you say, naturally, it seemed like Jankos was just more proactive. He went to steal the camps away from Elyoya. He went to cover his bases. They went for the early dives. It seemed like a different strategy altogether.
Yeah, I was a bit worried for the early game because I thought that Wunder was kind of weak side when Elyoya was ganking top, but Zanzarah said it, right? Jankos plays for Caps, Caps and Jankos play for the rest of the map. So Jankos was hard forcing mid, and then in turn allows Jankos to go for the bot dives. Even though Humanoid has TP, look where Caps is on the left side of your screen. He's already there for the fight. And G2 were just ready to get numbers advantage across the map, snowball their fights. And even if the fight looks shaky because you're between towers and perhaps you're losing a few members, the fact is, Carzzy loses the bot wave. And I think you saw Rekkles was up 60, 70 CS going into the mid to late game. And that's all because G2 are forcing these early game dives. And regardless of how the kills go, whether it's even, they're losing out on waves and the waves will start to bounce. So it's always a beneficial play for G2, just using their mid jungler so well.
Yeah, Zanzarah, and I think it proves once again that jungler is the most important role in the game, right?
Most OP.
Yeah, of course, jungle's broken.
Jungle's totally broken. So let's talk about this jungle matchup then. We talked so much about Elyoya in the first two games, and rightfully so, but now we see a different side from Jankos when the team composition is always so. That wasn't a sentence, is going better rather. What are we expecting this to evolve in now that we see that Jankos is super destructive on the Volibear? Of course, Elyoya also still had a good game on the Hecarim. Are we expecting some more bans to be thrown towards that jungle pool, Zanzarah?
I don't really think so. I think it's gonna be the same kinda. I think both teams kind of comfortable with just letting everything is open and just focus more on the mid lane picks or on AD carry picks. And I think it's going to be mostly on players to perform well on the picks. I think for Jankos, Volibear feels really comfortable right now, and Elyoya more prefer Hecarim, and maybe they'll just gonna keep trading.
Yeah, and I think that both teams have sort of figured each other out now. They both have somewhat even drafts. We're seeing Kai'Sa Xayah trades, we're seeing Orianna Viktor trades, we're seeing Volibear, Hecarim trades. So essentially trading OPs in almost every role. And I think the biggest thing for me that G2 changed was putting Rekkles on a carry. You saw it this game. They played for Rekkles, they played for Caps initially, but they played into bot. And I think like Rekkles, he was able to shine, step up, and you can just see it from the stats, right? He was high, way further ahead in CS. He was Kai'Sa ulting onto full HP Gnars, chunking them out. He was being everywhere on the map instead of just sitting back, shielding his team, which is a good playstyle in a sense, because if Caps gets ahead, obviously you can play the Seraphines, the Karmas, which worked for them last week. But I think that the success comes from him being on these proactive AD carries alongside Mikyx, so it helps Mikyx actually get into the games. Because I feel like Mikyx had a rough first 2 games, I must say. And I'm not going to attribute that totally to this Karma pick, but it makes it a lot easier with him if he can just move around with Rekkles on the Kai'Sa.
Yeah, indeed. Rekkles finally on a carry is what G2 fans love to see, of course. So now let's talk about what's going to be in this future. As we say, the DNA of a best of 5, it keeps evolving in terms of drafts, right? And as you guys have both said, now they're comfortable trading certain OPs with each other, and we kind of know what we're going to expect. And I feel like we're going to get the most standard game out of the 5, maybe out of game 4. But some fringe picks, because this is when you can get pushed into that new territory. Zanzarah, what do you expect out of the drafts of Game 4? And specifically, if this is now the chance for, you know, a curveball maybe out of an Armut or something like that?
I think it's going to be... Actually, I think Mad Lions will try to steal Orianna on first pick. But I'm 100% on it. I think Caps showing up insane on this pick. And Orianna just, I think, one of the best mid laners right now in meta. Yeah, I think everything else should be kind of the same. Maybe G2 should change the top lane pick because Akali didn't really work well. I think top lane was kind of on an island this game and didn't have an effect on the game. So maybe they will come back to the science strategy, not sure. Or they will pick up Gnar again, Gnar themselves, because Armut on Gnar seems pretty strong.
Yeah, and I think the best of 5 has entered into this point where it's G2 are backs against the wall, whereas Mad Lions can afford a game to just test something, throw something at G2, because now G2 is playing standardized. Mad Lions are the ones who can try things out or try to bring out these niche picks that perhaps worked in scrims. Like you said, maybe Armut wants to run back the Wukong or the Urgot. They've definitely got a lot of more things up their sleeves, but it looks like both teams are playing standard. Now it's just up to G2 to keep up the standardization, to make sure they don't drop the game and just try something crazy and then lose out on this best of 5.
And definitely don't go back to the game 1 draft.
Yeah, exactly. And then Mad Lions are the ones who can try to, you know, dissect G2 a bit more going into game 5, perhaps.
Well, since the superior analyst today again was Zanzarah, who is still in the race for the vote, he's saying that it would be a 3-1 for Mad Lions. How do Mad Lions win this game 4, Zanzarah?
I think they should just try to punish Caps. I think the main thing what they should do, they should get better mid jungle and just pressure Caps as much as possible, because in first 2 games they punish Caps super well, and he was kind of can't really do much in games. But in the third game, Jankos just free up Caps and Caps just take over the map with Jankos. So I think the mid jungle should be important, and of course have support involved into that.
Yes, for sure. Shutting down Caps. It's always
shutting down Caps. It sounds easy, but it's not that easy.
It isn't easy at all. G2, they completely changed their approach for Game 3, but have they found their winning formula versus the Mad Lions? Let's see if they can take down Mad Lions once again and get that reverse sweep.
Oh, baby.
Oh, baby.